Hi everyone, this is Anil. Welcome to video on how to create a jar file to consume a secret from AWS Secrets Manager. So as part of the setup, we will see the AWS setup, Eclipse and Maven setup to create the jar file, and then we will log into MidServer and consume the secret which is set up in AWS Secrets Manager. So first we log into AWS. So AWS provides a service called AWS Secrets Manager, which is used to store the secrets, right? So here I have created a secret with secret name as Varan key, and it has a secret value in it. Now I want to read this secret value using AWS APIs, right? So now the goal is to read this from MidServer because then I can consume it from within ServiceNow platform. Now I'm logged into my MidServer, and here I have set up a jar file which will generate a file called secret, which will contain the secret value. So I'm going to delete this first, and then I'll execute a bat file which has the command to run this jar file. So basically, it is just running the jar file and it is telling where to capture the output or the secret, right? And once the jar file executes, then you can see that the secret file is created. Now we'll open this and see the secret that is retrieved. So we can see that it says Varan key is the key and the value is Varan value. So this matches with what you're seeing here, which is your secret name. Now we will see what is the setup required to generate this jar file here, right? So this is the jar file which is doing the work. Now we'll see what is the setup needed to generate this jar file. So it's a bit of a detailed process, right? So I will go step by step. So in order for us to generate this jar file and read a secret, we need to have a couple of prerequisites. One is to have a IAM user account in AWS that has access to AWS secrets, right? So we'll look at IAM, and we will see the user that is set up here. So here I have set up a user called Varan API user, and if you see the roles for that user, it has permissions to access secrets manager read write. So there is a policy which is added, which gives the ability for this user to read and write secrets. Right. So that's the first step. The next step is to create a secret in AWS, which we have already seen. Right. Then we need to do this credential and config file setup and environment variable setup. So this is mentioned here. So we have to create all those environment variables that are mentioned here. So we'll look at them. Uh, So we'll go to environment variables, and here we have all those variables set up. The first one is AWS access key ID, which is the access key ID of the user, IAM user, and then the location of the config file, which is inside this file called inside this folder called .aws. So the key here is the folder name has to have a dot. It's called .aws, and then the file name is config, and then the default region is US East 2. There is secret key. Then there is a shared credential file which is added, which is the file name is credentials. Again, it's in the same path called .aws. And then there's a environment variable called home, which will tell you where these files are located, which is C ServiceNow API Java, and then like Java home you have to define and so on. Right. The remaining pieces are standard, but these are the specific ones needed for this setup. And we'll look at the folder structure as well. So if you go here, we are in C drive, ServiceNow API Java, and then within this, there's a folder called .aws, and here we have these two files. So if you open this, so you can see that there is a file called config, which has default, and it has region and output. Now here, if there is more than one profile, then you will mention the profile name as well. Like for example, if you want to say like user one, profile one, then that will have a construct like this, and then you can mention region and output as the variables, right? The same construct applies to the credentials as well. So if you open the credential file, same thing applies here as well. So there's default, and then there is like the profiles. So that's about the setup needed. And next is So once these environment variables are set up, then we have to add Maven to the bin to the path. Now, so this is the setup we need to do in the mid server, right? Because basically wherever we are trying to execute the jar file, we need to do the setup. But now, in order for us to generate the jar file, some more additional setup is required. The first is to install Eclipse, install Maven, install AWS Eclipse kit, all those pieces. So we'll cover them in the next steps, right? So first is to install Maven and then add that to the add Maven bin to the path. So let's look at that. So here, if you see, I have added the installations Apache Maven 3.9.1 bin to the path variable, right? Again, so one thing to understand here is while we are executing the jar file on mid server, the setup to generate the jar file is not running on the mid server. It is running on my local installation of Eclipse and so on. So this environment variable is on local, right? So here I have done this setup. So once that setup is complete, the next step is to do the Eclipse setup, right? So for that, we'll go to Eclipse, and here we do all the setup, right? So first is to create a new project in Maven and call it as simple project. So we'll go here. Uh, so here we're going to create a new project. Uh, so once we do that, it's a Maven project. So we'll do that, and then we'll say create simple project, and it has all this information like group IDs, talk.examples. So click on next. Group ID is talk.examples. Uh, artifact ID is uh, lambda Java example, and then version is this one here, and then packaging is jar. The name is going to be lambda Java example. So once we do this, we'll click on finish. So it creates a new project. So while that is happening, you also want so it creates a new project here, as you can see. Now we also have to install something called as uh, AWS Eclipse Kit. So for that, we have to go to help, and then we have to say install new software. And here we have to give a link called awsamazon.com/eclipse, and that will install the required uh, files needed, right? So we select all of them, but I mean, if you're just looking for working with Secrets Manager, then you can just do the core as well. I mean, within core, there's only like one module which is required, so you can just install that, and that will be fine, right? But yeah, so I have installed all of these. And next step is to so once we create this project, then we have to add the dependencies. The first dependency is so we go to POM, and then we say add dependency, and then here we mention AWS Lambda Java Core in the group ID, and then in artifact ID we'll provide com.amazon AWS, and then version is going to be this is going to be the artifact ID, group ID, and then version will be 1.2.2, and then we click on OK. So similarly, we'll add other dependencies as well, which I mentioned here, right? Uh, so this is the second one, which is for Maven jar. So okay, let's keep doing all the steps. So next we add a plugin. So again, we'll do the same thing. Do a right click. I'll say Maven add plugin, group ID, and artifact ID 3.2.2, And there is next plugin, which is to generate the jar. Plugin. Maven jar plugin. 3.3.0. Click OK. And once we add these two plugins, then we have to add a configuration to plugin 2, which is this section here. Again, what we're trying to define here is the main class. For once the jar is generated, we have to mention like what is the main class within the jar. So to do that within plugin 2, we have to add this. So for that, we'll go to pom.xml. Just double click on that. And then within plugin 2, which is the jar plugin, you'll have to add a configuration section. And that should take care of that. Now, next step is to add few more dependencies. Now here, these dependencies are needed to communicate with AWS, like for example, software, Amazon, AWS SDK, Secrets Manager, software, Amazon, AWS SDK regions, and then this is for logging, these two are for logging, right? So yeah, let's keep going, keep adding them. And then in terms of these properties, we are adding this compiler source and target. This is required to execute some of this code here. So yeah, they require that 1.8. So we're adding those as well. So we go to properties and click on create name 1.8. Click OK. Similarly, compile a target. Click on create 1.8. Click OK. So that completes that, and then we need to add this third one, which is your start class as well. Example.hello. Example is a package name and hello is a class name. So that is that, and then we are adding this few more dependencies. So you go to dependency here, click on add, group ID, artifact ID 2.20.47. So at this point, both of them have the same version, but that may not be the case all the time. Both regions and the secret manager. So 2.20.47. Click on OK. Then next is the logging related dependencies. And the next one is this one here. So once these are done, then we have to create this class called hello. So here we go to so we'll open the Project Explorer, and then we can see the source, so which has main, and within that there is Java. So next we'll create a class called hello within a package called example, and name has to be hello. Include the main function. So this is the Java class which is created. We have the code already ready, so we'll just use that. So if you see here, we are trying to, keep it within the package as example, and then we are importing all this packages we need. Like for example, the first one is regions.region, then you have secrets manager, uh, secret manager client, and then model and all this, right? S- yeah, so here it says only allowed source level 1.8. We have already added that. We just have to uh, build that, and that should take care of that. So first we'll try to run the file in itself, right, and see the execution of that. So we'll run it as a Java application. Now the output that is expected is it should write the secret uh, to a file, right, and also it should print this hello world secret, and then it has to give the value as well. And at the same time, it also has to write the output on this file. So let's look at that. So this is the file, and it has written the output in test.out, right, which is in the D drive. So that is working as expected. So then we can go ahead and build this project. So I'll go to run as Maven build, and then we have to give a goal here. So let's copy that and paste it, and click on apply and run. So once we click on run, it will start building it. So you can see that the build is successful, and it will create a target folder. And if you see the target, you will see that there's a jar file in the target location, right? So let's open. So if you see here, we can see that this lambda Java example 0.0.1 snapshot.jar file is created, and this is the same file that we have used to execute this setup in MidServer, right? So that completes uh, the demo, right? Let's do a quick recap. And the first piece is to have some prerequisites done, which is to have an IAM user account on AWS and then create a secret in AWS. Then you have to do credential config setup, environment variable setup as mentioned here. And then we have to do, we have to install AWS client, AWS kit for on Eclipse, and through this install new software, this piece here. And then once that is done, then we do all this required setup for Maven to be able to build this project. That's done here, and then we create this hello the class file which contains all this code. Basically, all it is doing is trying to uh, communicate with AWS and then trying to fetch the secret, and it is trying to populate that in this file, right? And then after that, we have built the project, we have seen the output, and we also have seen how it is getting executed on the mid server. So these are the different references I've used in the process of trying to build the setup. Right? And the same is also available. The same setup is also the same steps that are also added to the community article, and which the link for which I'm going to post on the video. Right? And I'm also going to upload this code base to GitHub, so that can be accessed from there as well. Thank you for watching. This is Anil.